minutes, I'm going to tell you why everybody in the world in the next 7 years will be on social media. It's a pretty broad statement and awfully grandiose when you consider the audience for social media today. But think about mobile phones for just a second. There's 7.2 billion mobile phones in use in the world. Anyone know how many people there are in the world?
7 billion.
6.8 billion people. There's more mobile phones in use than people in the world today. If you think about social media and you think about what Facebook is from a social media perspective, there's 800 million people on Facebook today. Almost 1 billion people. And it's very difficult. It's difficult for a reason we're going to get into in a second. But what I'm going to tell you here briefly is what is going to create social media's tipping point and why in 7 to 10 years everybody in the world, including your grandmother, your children, will be on social media. Because social media is nothing more than digital word of mouth. And word of mouth has been used since the beginning of time. Social media is just condensing time, and it's condensing geography as well. So that allows people to do things on their own time. So before we get to the tipping point of social media, I want to find out when most people think Facebook is at its highest. Well, wait a minute, before we get there, what device do people think is most used with Facebook? Any guesses?
Computer.
Mobile phone, computer. Anything else? If you said mobile phone or computer, you'd be wrong. The most used device with Facebook is an office chair. People use Facebook when they're bored. I'll show you some statistics in a second to back that up and to let you know why. But if you think about the moments that you're most engaged with something, that you're having the most fun, it's not when you're on Facebook. That's a big issue. It's a tremendous issue because that's what you want to share with your friends and your family. Your most important activities and events are what you want to share with the people you love the most, with your social network. Think about anything fun that you've done and consider what you've done after you've done it or anything interesting that's happened. You're always trying to talk to a friend and tell someone about it. Anyone care to guess when the peak usage for Facebook is?
Lunchtime on the
If you don't know, no one in my forum, sorry. David, please. Anyone else?
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Monday at work.
Monday at work.
9 a.m.
2.
Anyone else? Tuesday?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock on Tuesday?
Sure.
Close. 3 p.m. on Wednesday. For the exact same reason. People use Facebook when they're bored. If you look up at this graph, that top line is the purple line. That's Wednesdays. That's the peak usage by a ton. Because the blue line, the blue block is the weekend. The red line is Sunday. When do you have the most fun? What's the most excitement you've had? It's not Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, unless maybe you work for David Steinberg and they have a lot of fun in their office. But it's not typically during the middle of the week, during the middle of the day. So think about what happens right now from Facebook and how you use it. You do something really exciting on the weekend. Maybe you take some pictures. You get into the office on Monday, you have stuff to do. So you got to start doing your work and everything else. You get your desk cleared out, you get things out of the way. Wednesday rolls around, you got some time on your hands. So you go on Facebook and you update your pictures from the weekend. You find out what's going on for the next weekend. That's when the highest and most complete use of Facebook is. Because the simple reason is there's too much friction involved in using social media right now. So people who guess the mobile phone aren't that far off. So Facebook has 800 million subscribers. 30% of them have downloaded the mobile app for Facebook. So you've got 240 million people who have downloaded the app on this. But according to a study that came out from the Pew Center in September of 2011, less than 5% of the people use mobile phones for location-based social media type of activity. So a lot of people download it, but they don't use it. And there's a big reason for that. The reason is friction. So I want everyone to stop and think for a second about the most fun you had over Christmas or New Year's break. The vacation, the holiday season you just had. Just stop and think for a second what you did. I'll tell you what I did. Admittedly, I didn't stick the landing.
It's unlike you, Patty.
It is unlike me, David. I didn't stick the landing, but it makes for a good video. So I was in 12 inches of powder in Les Houches in the French Alps. You guys are the first ones to see an awesome experience I had. That was an incredible time. The powder was like champagne. I was in the trees on a 40-degree slope. There was this great-looking jump coming up. Didn't quite end it as I planned, but nonetheless, it was still a ton of fun. You're the first ones to share it with. Not my skiing buddies, not my friends from college, not the folks on my Facebook network. Why? Because there's too much friction involved. I've had too much to do between when I took that day skiing and arriving in from Geneva late last night and then driving here first thing in the morning. So the reason being, again, there's too much friction involved. Don't do it again. There it is. There's too much friction involved with social media, and the first ones to discover it were, oddly enough, the ski industry, because they had mobile apps and they invested a lot of money, and what they expected to see was this. But instead what they got were guys like me, who were having an epic day, having a ton of fun, tearing it up, having a great time, never stopping what they were doing, taking out their phone and doing that. Because you're engaged, you're at the height of enjoyment. You're having the most fun you've ever done. And think of any activity. Running a triathlon, going to a music festival like Lollapalooza, in a ski area. Any of these activities are exactly the type of thing you want to share on social media, but you can't because there's too much friction. So a frictionless experience is what's going to be the tipping point for social media. Enabling this to happen without stopping what you're doing, without disengaging from that activity, is when social media will become massively adopted, because the first step has already taken place in social media. If you look at Facebook's new timeline, Facebook was the first one to do it. It's Facebook, it's going to be Google, Microsoft and Apple are going to follow suit very quickly. But Facebook took their platform and they created a timeline, which is what everyone wanted them to do from day one. So now you've got a digital diary of your life. You have an online scrapbook that's there forever. There's even a service now that will do your own epitaph after you're dead, right? Think about how, what's going to happen in the future. So now when your kids start getting online, they can have their graduation pictures, their high school pictures, their marriage pictures, their kids, their grandkids' pictures. You can go back and you can search. So now you've got this digital diary of your life. Facebook is nothing more than an enabling platform, just like the internet. I'm not sure who the winner is going to be yet, but if you think about the internet wasn't the fabulous technology, right? May East, the Metro Area Exchange at 8100 Boone Boulevard, and May West weren't the two big winners. The two big winners out of the internet were email and e-commerce. And you can see the people and the companies that have spawned from those. Social media is the same thing. Facebook is nothing more than a platform. And maybe at some point Google Plus will become the platform, Apple might become the platform might become agnostic. But that's not the point. The point is to have a digital diary of your life. And in order to have that digital diary, you have to have moments captured in real time of things that you're doing that are most enjoyable to you and most important. And in order to get that done and to enable it, you're either going to pay for it with cash, with some form of money, or you're going to allow a company to put their logo down in the corner of the picture. They'll always be on your website. The first folks to realize this were Vail Resorts. Vail Resorts said, nobody's using our mobile app. We got to figure out some way. There's too much friction in this mobile app. People aren't stopping what they're doing. They're having too much fun skiing. They're really enjoying it with their friends. But people are always talking about who's the better skier, who's done the best thing. So they came up with the idea a year and a half ago of this program called Epic Mix. Epic Mix, as you can see from the bottom, is an online portal that's tied into Facebook and Twitter, where your days skied, are seamlessly captured. All you do is ski. It started out with season pass holders. And season pass holders came and they got a little card that looks like this, and it has a RFID tag, radio frequency identification tag, embedded in it. They put it in their jacket pocket or they wear it around their neck, and they just ski. They had 200,000 plus season pass holders. And what they want to do is be able to track the vertical feet that you skied in a day. And you can earn virtual pins. So if there's 6 inches more powder and you ski that day, you get the pow hound pin. If you ride the same lift 10 times in a day, you get the monogamy pin. So they had all sorts of great pins. Now they've got over 100 pins. And it was a huge success. So John and I might go out and ski together and see who gets king of the mountain. And guys are talking about, and we were talking at lunch today, guys are talking about, rich guys are sitting around seeing who got the most vertical feet this week, this month, today. How many pins did you get? I had one guy, the CEO of Disney, who's on our board, call me up and he said, my 65-year-old mother was asking me how many pins I got while I'm on vacation because she's at home counting her pins. I mean, it was a tremendous hit. But they didn't think it would be. So Vail Resorts has 7 mountains. They said, okay, we're offering this up to 100,000 subscribers. We're going to give someone $100,000 to participate in this because we want to make sure there's good adoption. Well, here's what happened. They gave away the money on December 28th. About 10,000 people had signed up. The money had nothing to do with the adoption rate. By the end of the season, there were over 100,000 people who signed up for the Epic Mix program. The adoption was entirely viral. People were entirely sharing it. Now, at Vail Resorts, at all 7 mountains, they spent millions of dollars so every skier can participate in this. And what's happened this year? Just what you'd expect. They've nearly doubled in the first 8 weeks of the season, based on what they did last year. And it's a huge success, and other companies and industries are following suit quickly. So there are 2 drivers for this. Number 1 is mobile and wireless technology. Radio frequency identification, that's a tag on the left, and voice technology. Right now, that's a screenshot from my Siri. I tried to check into the YPO retreat. She had no clue what I was talking about. But that's because Siri's a terrible hack and Steve Jobs would have never left it up. That's a different conversation. So at some point, voice recognition and voice technology and wireless mobile technology like RFID will eliminate all the friction completely from social media. So when you want to check in, when you want to check into Starbucks, when you want to get a Groupon, when you want to become mayor of a location, when you want to share your pictures with someone, you'll be able to do it frictionlessly because of long-range RFID. And RFID chips will be embedded in phones. And then we were just out at the YPO conference, the mobile conference I spoke at a few weeks back, and I spoke with the CEO of Qualcomm out there. It's real easy to embed a wireless chip in a phone, in a keychain, in a bracelet, and you'll have a single sign-on for social media at some point. And that'll completely eliminate the friction. And when that happens, the entire world is going to shrink. And time in itself will morph as well. Because word of mouth will become shared in real time, but the receivers of that information and the sharers, the people you want to share your experiences with, will do it on their own time. So Facebook and Google Plus and Apple will release something and Microsoft will release something as well. Social media will just become digital word of mouth and it'll spread, but the way it'll get there is by removing the friction. And in the next 7 years, let's all meet on Facebook together and we'll see that that happened. Thank you.